The morning sun spilled through the tall windows of the Harrington estate, casting streaks of gold across marble floors and white furniture that looked like it had never been touched. The smell of fresh lilies mixed with the faint aroma of imported coffee, everything perfect, expensive, sterile. At the center of it all stood Victoria Harrington, her designer heels tapping impatiently as she scrolled through her phone. Her 6-year-old son, Ethan, sat on the couch, legs swinging, staring at a tablet. Ethan, sweetie, sit up straight, Victoria said without looking. We have a new nanny candidate coming. Please don't embarrass me this time. Ethan mumbled, I didn't embarrass you last time, Mom. You yelled at her. Victoria sighed. She showed up wearing sneakers. I can't have someone looking unprofessional around my son. A knock echoed through the vast foyer. Victoria straightened her dress and motioned to the butler. Show her in. Moments later, the door opened, and in stepped Clara Johnson, a calm, warm-eyed black woman in her late 40s. She wore a simple gray blouse and navy skirt, her posture graceful but humble. She smiled politely. Good morning, Mrs. Harrington, she said softly. I'm here about the nanny position. Victoria's eyes flicked over her, from her natural hair to her modest shoes, and a faint, condescending smile curved her lips. Ah, yes. You're Clara, was it? Yes, ma'am. Victoria gestured toward a chair, but didn't offer a handshake. So, Clara, I assume you have experience? Yes, ma'am, Clara said. I've cared for children for over 20 years. I started as a live-in nanny when I was 19, and most recently I worked for the Thompsons until their twins started high school. 20 years, Victoria repeated, forcing a polite laugh. That's impressive. Though I'm looking for someone who understands a certain standard of care. We do things a little differently here. I want Ethan surrounded by sophistication, not ordinary habits. Clara nodded slowly. Children need love more than luxury, ma'am. That's what helps them grow right. Victoria's smile tightened. Well, yes, well, we prefer both. From the couch, Ethan looked up curiously. You sound nice, he said to Clara. Do you know how to make chocolate chip pancakes? Clara smiled warmly. The best in Chicago. Ethan grinned, but Victoria's tone snapped like glass. Ethan, manners, please. Turning back to Clara, she added with a thin smile, Thank you for coming. We'll be in touch. Clara stood slowly, still calm. Thank you for your time. As she turned to leave, Ethan whispered, I hope you come back. Victoria shot him a look, but Clara only smiled gently. Maybe someday, sweetheart. When the door closed, Victoria exhaled dramatically. Can you believe that? Talking about love over luxury. This is why you can't hire just anyone these days. The butler, who had seen hundreds of people pass through that house, said nothing, but his eyes lingered on Victoria longer than usual. Because life has a way of humbling even the proudest hearts, and soon, Victoria Harrington would find herself standing in a city hall ballroom, face to face with that same woman she'd dismissed, and realize she had just insulted the one person who raised the man running the city. A week after the interview, Victoria Harrington sat in her spotless kitchen, sipping espresso and flipping through social media. She'd almost forgotten Clara's name until her friend Tiffany Langford called, gossip as usual in her voice. Did you hear who the mayor's honoring this weekend? Tiffany said. Some woman named Clara Johnson. Apparently she's getting an award for community service. Helped raise him or something? Can you believe that? Victoria froze, coffee halfway to her lips. Clara Johnson? She repeated. That name sounds familiar, right? I looked her up. Sweet older black lady. Used to work as a nanny or something before she started a charity for single mothers. The mayor calls her his second mom. Victoria's hand tightened on the cup. Oh. Anyway, I'm going to the event Saturday. Everyone who's anyone will be there. You should come. Maybe network a bit. The mayor's foundation's expanding into education, and your husband's firm could use the connection. Victoria forced a smile. Of course. We'll be there. But all day she couldn't stop thinking about it. The way Clara had stood in her foyer, calm, kind, unshakable. The way Victoria had dismissed her, like she was invisible. Still, she pushed the thought aside. It's just a coincidence, she told herself. There must be dozens of Claras in this city. Saturday night came. The City Hall ballroom glowed with chandeliers and gold accents. filled with Chicago's most powerful politicians, donors, socialites. Victoria arrived with her husband Robert, her diamond bracelet catching every camera flash. "Play it right," she whispered to him. "If we talk to the mayor, don't mention the tax case. Just flatter his education plan." Robert chuckled. "You've got it, Vic." The mayor soon arrived. Mayor Darius Cole, young, sharp, charismatic. Cameras swarmed as he shook hands and smiled. "It's good to see so many familiar faces," he said warmly. "But tonight isn't about politics. It's about people, especially the people who shaped us." Then he turned toward the stage. "And no one shaped me more than this woman right here, Ms. Clara Johnson." Applause thundered through the room. Victoria's smile froze. From the side of the stage, Clara walked in, the same woman she had brushed off just days before. But now she wasn't wearing a modest blouse and skirt. She wore a flowing navy gown, graceful and confident. The mayor greeted her with open arms. "She taught me compassion," Darius said proudly. "She was my nanny when my mother worked double shifts. She made sure I read every night, that I believed I was more than what the world said I could be. I wouldn't be standing here without her." Clara smiled modestly as the crowd rose to their feet. Cameras flashed, and in the second row, Victoria Harrington sat perfectly still, her cheeks flushed with realization, her throat tight with shame. When Clara's gaze swept across the crowd, their eyes met for a brief, electric moment. There was no malice in Clara's face, just quiet understanding, and something even harder for Victoria to bear: forgiveness. Robert leaned over, whispering, "Isn't that the lady you—" "Don't," Victoria whispered back, her voice trembling. Because for the first time, Victoria wasn't the one judging. She was the one being seen, truly seen, for what she was. The next morning, Victoria Harrington couldn't shake the image of Clara Johnson standing on that stage, confident, radiant, embraced by the mayor himself. She replayed the moment over and over, the applause, the standing ovation, the way Clara's poise had made the room glow. For once, Victoria felt something she hadn't felt in years. Small. By breakfast, she made up her mind. "I'm going to apologize," she told her husband. Robert looked up from his paper, skeptical. "Apologize? To who?" "To Ms. Johnson," she said. The woman I might have misjudged." Robert raised an eyebrow. "You insulted her, Vic." Victoria frowned. "That's not— I was just professional." He set down his coffee. "Professional doesn't usually come with that tone." Victoria sighed. "I'll fix it. Maybe if I make a donation to her charity—" "Vic," Robert interrupted gently, "don't throw money at guilt. Say sorry like a person." She looked at him sharply, but deep down, she knew he was right. Later that week, Victoria arrived at the small community center on the city's south side, where Clara's foundation, Hearts and Hands, ran after-school programs for kids. The building wasn't flashy, but it was alive, full of laughter, the sound of crayons on paper, and the warmth of something real. Clara was at the front, helping a young girl with her reading. She didn't see Victoria at first. When she finally turned, her eyes widened slightly, not with surprise, but quiet curiosity. "Mrs. Harrington," she said softly, "this is unexpected." Victoria tried to smile. It came out tight. "Ms. Johnson, I wanted to stop by. I owe you an apology." Clara nodded slowly. "All right, go ahead." Victoria hesitated. She'd practiced this speech all morning, but now every word felt artificial. "I shouldn't have spoken to you the way I did. I made assumptions about you. It wasn't fair." Clara folded her hands. "You judged me before you knew me." "Yes," Victoria admitted. "I did." Clara's tone stayed calm. "Do you know how often that happens to women who look like me? People see the color of our skin before they see our character." Victoria looked down. I didn't know, not really, but I'm beginning to." Clara studied her for a long moment, then finally said, "Thank you for saying it. But Mrs. Harrington, an apology isn't about what you say. It's about what you change." Victoria's eyes flicked toward the children, coloring and laughing at nearby tables. "What can I do?" she asked quietly. Clara smiled faintly. "Start by listening. Come here," See what we do, not as a donor, as a person. The next afternoon, Victoria returned. No designer heels, no pearls, just jeans and a cardigan. She spent the afternoon helping serve snacks, reading books to children, cleaning up glue and paper scraps, and for the first time in a long time, she felt useful. As she packed up to leave, Clara approached. You did well today. Victoria smiled a little shyly. I haven't worked this hard since college. Clara chuckled. Then you'll sleep well tonight. Victoria hesitated. Thank you for giving me a chance. Clara looked at her kindly. Everyone deserves one, Mrs. Harrington. Even people learning how to be better. As Victoria walked to her car, she noticed something different in herself. Not shame anymore, but relief. The kind that comes when you stop pretending and start growing. Because for the first time, she understood what Clara had tried to teach her that day in the interview. Luxury doesn't raise good people. Love does. A few weeks later, Victoria Harrington returned to the community center. This time, not out of guilt, but out of genuine care. She had even brought someone with her, her son, Ethan. When they arrived, the after-school program was in full swing. Kids were building model rockets from cardboard tubes and tape. The air buzzed with laughter and chatter. Ethan's eyes lit up immediately. Wow, he whispered. This looks way more fun than piano lessons. Clara turned from across the room, smiling when she saw them. Well, look who's back. And you brought company. Victoria smiled nervously. I thought Ethan could volunteer, or at least see what the program's like. Clara crouched beside Ethan. Hi there, young man. Remember me? Ethan's eyes widened. You're the lady from our house. You were really nice? Clara laughed softly. I try to be. You want to help me hand out paintbrushes? Ethan nodded eagerly, and within minutes, he was deep in conversation with other kids. Laughing, painting, learning. Victoria watched from the corner, hands clasped, something warm growing in her chest. For the first time, she saw her son fully at ease, not surrounded by tutors and private schedules, but by joy. When the children went outside to play, Clara walked over, wiping her hands on a towel. He's got a good heart, she said. Victoria smiled. He's curious about everything. I just never gave him space to see the world like this. Clara nodded. That's why we do what we do here. Every child deserves a place to be seen, not just managed. Victoria hesitated, then said softly, You know, when I first met you, I thought you were beneath me. But I think I was the one who didn't measure up. Clara's eyes softened. You just forgot what matters. We all do sometimes. The important thing is, you remembered. That night, on the drive home, Ethan was still bubbling with excitement. Mom, did you know Ms. Clara used to help kids build robots? And she told me stories about when the mayor was little. She said he loved rockets too. She taught him math when nobody else would. Victoria glanced at him in the rearview mirror, her heart tightening. She did? Ethan nodded. He called her his second mom. I think that's really cool. Victoria smiled faintly, eyes glistening. Yeah, sweetheart, it really is. The next morning, Victoria made a call. This is Victoria Harrington, she said. I'd like to discuss a long-term sponsorship for the Hearts and Hands Foundation, but under one condition. What's that, Mrs. Harrington? The director asked. That it stays anonymous, she said softly. It's not about credit. It's about doing the right thing. Weeks later, Clara arrived at the center to find new supplies, computers, and scholarships for the kids, all donated quietly. There was no press, no publicity, no signature from a wealthy donor. Just a note left on her desk in neat handwriting. Thank you for teaching me what real grace looks like. VH. Clara smiled, folded the note, and slipped it into her planner. Because sometimes, the people who need saving aren't the poor or the powerless, but the privileged who forgot how to feel. And thanks to one woman's humility and one child's open heart, two worlds that once stood apart were finally learning to walk side by side.